K-Squid is proud to be a part of Santa Cruz Gives, a community giving site that funnels dollars towards local nonprofits like yours truly, KSQD. Here's K-Squid music host Bruce Larson.
Hello everybody, I'm Bruce Larson here at KSQD in the hot seat, where we do the shows at our little studio. It's only about 400 square feet, so we make the most out of it. The music hosts, most of our collectors and really know their stuff. They love sharing it with you. I do, and I know they do too, and it's great to be able to expand our horizons and your horizons as listeners. Here in non-commercial radio, we're free to play all the good stuff. Please support this kind of radio. It's important. Thank you.
Join Bruce and others by going to santacruzgives.org/KSQD and make your gift today. Your donation can fund a new microphone or a new set of headphones for one of your favorite K-Squid DJs. Donations of $100 or more get you a shirt, mug, or hat with the fancy K-Squid logo on it. That's santacruzgives.org/KSQD.
And we'd like to thank Sarah Rabkin, Glenn McPherson, George Miller, and 3 anonymous donors. You don't have to give your name, but we certainly appreciate your support here at K-Squid. And here to talk a little bit more about Santa Cruz Gives are 2 people that are integrally involved in creating this nonprofit fundraising tool for the community. Karen Delaney of the Volunteer Center and Jeannie Howard. Welcome to K-Squid. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Rachel.
So I understand that 50% of all nonprofit giving happens between the last 4 weeks of the year. Is that true? Are we all procrastinators or what?
Yeah, let's have Karen talk about that. She tracks trends in giving nationally.
Yeah, I think particularly for first-time givers, there's a lot of push towards everybody's in the giving mood in the holidays. And so particularly first-time givers tend to give at the end of the year. There's also folks who are procrastinators and want to get the tax benefits before, the year ends. But really, I think it's just a time when people are traditionally, whatever your religious tradition is, people are thinking about family, they're thinking about community, they're thinking about gifts and sharing. And, it's just something that is it's a wonderful thing that's part of our culture.
It's a really good thing, too. It's giving back. I read somewhere that I think Americans are going to spend $41 billion with a B, and I think that's an undercount this year on gifts. And they already think, have spent that much just on Cyber Monday alone. And so there is like this sense that maybe people don't do things all year and that this is the time they loosen their wallets, not only for their friends and family, but what you're saying is they think about the community as well. Let's talk about Santa Cruz Gives. What is it and how long has it been going on?
Well, I didn't come up with the idea. I've always worked in the alternative press, which is news weeklies that have historically tried to address what we perceive as undercovered news throughout the last 50 years.
Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
We need it more than ever.
And you do it too.
Yeah.
I've been part of a network. Locally, it's Good Times, and for a long time, Metro Santa Cruz and Santa Cruz Weekly were alongside, as well as others.
The Sun.
The Sun, the Express.
Yeah.
There was a long history because we have such an alternative, community-minded county. There were 110 members of the Association of Alternative News Weeklies at its peak. And someone started it. I don't even know who, but lots of us created these kind of giving programs. I mean, the 2 reasons to create it is because we had the ability to promote it widely. Good Times and Monterey County Weekly also has one, which I'm sure you cover that region as well.
Yes.
We use the same web platform. So it's
an online platform where people can go, and there's how many nonprofits are on
this year? 65. Yes, the ability to promote and the platform are the keys. It's a crowdfunding website, and technology made it possible. And we have a shopping cart and each nonprofit has its own profile page. So it's really easy. Prior to this, it just was difficult to know who to give and how. And so now you can go and scan them. They're categorized by every category there is: animals, children, seniors, the environment, just the disabled.
I think
there's
we're in
about
the
a
other.
dozen.
I think K Squid is in the other category. 'Cause there was
Arts
no
and
category.
I know, arts and
Yeah,
culture.
there
Yeah,
you go.
culture.
Yay.
Culture. We're cultured. We have jazz.
That's true. You could be in all the categories.
We could,
So yes,
yeah.
and there's a shopping cart, and it's a minimum $5 donation. You charge it to your credit card. It's click, click, click. It's very easy.
So I know from being part of it that there's this leaderboard, right? So it's a friendly competition in a way.
Yes.
And I'm watching KSQD become we were like 6th place. And no, we're down in 12th. Wait, we got. So there's sort of like this, we want to be first place. That's kind of friendly, right?
Race to the top.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of options for people to give, and one of the things that we're at the Volunteer Center, we were all in on this and so excited about working with Good Times and our business partners is for a lot of folks, and particularly younger folks who are new to philanthropy, it's all about easy giving on my phone. And when you think of our wonderful community and all of the amazing organizations we have, they're mostly small organizations, and a lot of them just are doing great work, but they don't have the capacity to compete with these big crowdsourced platforms that frankly are kind of anonymous. So a lot of local donations, local organizations were losing out with new and younger givers to national and international crowdsourced funding campaigns. And what I really love about Santa Cruz Gives is all of the organizations are local. We all know each other. We all work together. Jeannie is being very humble. While she didn't think of the idea, we certainly wouldn't have raised $3.5 million over the last 5 years if it weren't for Jeannie, because in addition to being the heart and soul of it, what Jeannie does that's very important is goes out to the business community and to major philanthropists and incents giving by getting them to raise matching funds. So not only if you're new to the community and you want to get involved locally, they're all local organizations with local addresses, and every gift that you make, all of it stays here locally. And we've got close to $150,000 that Jeannie has raised from local philanthropists and foundations and businesses to help match gifts. So it's a really great way to bring the whole community together and, help a lot of great local organizations take part in these big end of the year campaigns, so that when you see things like Giving Tuesday or Cyber Monday and you see these big national organizations, we have our own local way to practice charity here at home, which is a great thing.
When you give to a local nonprofit, you are helping them, but you're also helping yourself in a really big way. So think about, we just interviewed Janice. I don't know if they're in Santa Cruz Gives or not, but we were talking about how nonprofits are taking the role that in some more well-distributed funds countries where tax dollars go to public services, they don't have this huge need to fill like our community does. And we're talking basic needs for shelter and food and things that government should provide, but just aren't the way we've got it set up. And so we have this need that's immense. And so when you give to one of these nonprofits, you're kind of giving, it might make you feel good, but you're also helping everything become better.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I wrote a little bit about this idea that I think of every year when we start the campaign. What would the community be like without all of these nonprofits? And I often think about Save Our Shores because I've picked up so many cigarette butts on the beach. And
Too many.
I don't think we'd have that much sand if no one ever picked up the garbage.
That's right. And also just the educational value to teenagers when they get to go do public service and go out with Save Our Shores and pick up cigarette butts and plastic. It's a very big eye-opener about an environmental problem of too much plastic. So there's a lot of good work being done by these nonprofits. I was looking on your leaderboard, and I think it's the Amamutsun Tribal Band
Yes.
is doing really well. And that's an organization that maybe people didn't know about and found out about through Santa Cruz Gives. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how well they're doing too. And really, some people are more interested recently in the cause of the native peoples. But really, they're an environmental organization. If you look at what they're doing, and I wanted them to focus a bit on the spaces that they're restoring that are going to be open to the public. Like you said, we're not just helping people, we're helping ourselves.
A little selfish philanthropy.
I know. Well, how else can we get people to give?
Right.
You know what's really interesting, though, Rachel, is philanthropy is good for the community. People who give and who volunteer actually are happier, healthier, and live longer than people who don't. And because, you know, you don't even have to use the word philanthropy. When you're involved in your community, you just feel better about yourself. And when you feel better about and you feel hopeful about the world. That's the thing I love most about our community and all these great nonprofits and all the volunteers like you and like Jeannie who are out there making things better. There's a way to look at the world that is hopeful and practical, and you feel like at the end of the day, you feel like good things happen in my community today. And when you feel like good things happen in my community today, and when you feel hopeful that tomorrow is going to be okay, yeah, there's still problems. Even if we're cleaning up environmental message, I know people who are good people that are my neighbors that are going to stand next to me and pick up those cigarette butts and teach our kids. When you feel that way, everything changes. Your blood pressure goes down. You are just a happier person, and the community is a stronger, richer community. And it's interesting because you were living side by side in the same community with people who maybe think like, oh, it's going to heck in a handbasket. But it really is a different experience when you have the experience of, I am making the world better with my time, with my money, with who I choose to support. It really is so deeply meaningful. And I think this time of the year, people really are not only thinking about themselves and their friends, but a lot of people are thinking about how to put meaning back in their lives, how to have meaningful holidays. And so including the hopeful and practical act of sharing your time, sharing your money, it really has so many benefits.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's Karen Delaney from the Volunteer Center, who sees a lot of volunteers in her time and is also part of Santa Cruz Gives, which is creating opportunities to give your financial support to many different organizations, like a one-stop shop where you could just give a little to each one if you wanted. I imagine you have people do that.
People do. I get to see in the back end of the website, like I often tell the nonprofits, what looks like a small donation to you could be a very large donation to Santa Cruz Gives.
What's the largest you've had in your history?
I think maybe 30,000.
Wow. So they might have spread it out over.
Yes, sometimes they give it to one, but yes, some people will give to every single group, very little, $5 to every group, or $20 to lots of groups. Or
what's really cool about it is if a whole bunch of people right now gave $5, for example, to KSQD's campaign, it would put us up the leaderboard of number of donors because that's a category.
Yes, and we give an award for the most donors.
So we could get like a lot of $5, or we could get a $30,000 donation for the center we want to open in Watsonville, where people can interview each other and not have to drive up Highway 1 during rush hour to get to the show. So like a little podcast studio. So that's our vision, as well as just upping the number of interviews just like this that we want to do.
And thank you. I of course, I've always worked in media, so I am so grateful for K-Squid.
Yeah.
And I also want to encourage people, as I constantly do, there is no amount that's too small. You can put $5. If everyone gave $5, first of all, it would be a lot. But also, nonprofits count the numbers of donors, it helps them get more support. It doesn't matter how small it is, how grassroots it is. If you can say to the major donors and the grant givers that we have, X number of supporters, that really helps. So it all does count.
As a nonprofit that's only 5 years old, at least 5 years on the air, we're about 7 years old. I can tell you that at the beginning, writing grant proposals, we just got rejected because we hadn't been around long enough and couldn't count the number of donors.
That's right.
We had a lot just to buy our transmitter and stuff, but we didn't have the track record. So it does help. It does really help. It's a whole world that you're supporting, not just one little donation for one thing only. So you said you have raised $3 million.
Actually, it's $4 million.
$4
It's
million. $4
more.
million
Yeah,
in
$4
the
million
last 5
we've
years.
raised, not counting
Since when?
anything that happens this year. It started in 2015, but it was small. Actually, I like to say we raised $2.3 million in the last 2 years, but we've been at it for 7 years.
And that's during a recession. I was wondering how, if people are tightening their wallets because of worries about gasoline prices and groceries, which tend to fluctuate a lot. And then after COVID, whether we saw a dip. So how is that playing out? Did it not affect you at all?
It did not affect, those things did not affect Santa Cruz Gives, which was surprising. And we're keeping our fingers. Last year, nationally, for the first time ever, there was a double-digit drop in both giving and volunteering. That I think it was a combination of
Inflation.
Inflation and fears. And so our hope is by making giving super easy and super local, at a time when everybody's thinking about giving, that we can beat the trends one more year, this year, and really get, like Jeannie says, a $5 gift is meaningful. All gifts are meaningful. And the other thing people don't really think about, this is one of the great things about Santa Cruz Gives, is you can go on there and look not only across all the causes, but there are organizations like yours who have big dreams. Like, we want to raise $100,000 to open a new location, and they're big organizations with staff. And there are small organizations that, if they raise $10,000 in Santa Cruz Gives, they're all volunteer organizations. That's like half their budget. So it's a great way to small gifts that seem like small to a person can really help us when you do have things like stocks aren't, people's retirement or endowment, or someone loses the capacity to give. There's a lot of us out there. And really, it's like one coffee.
Well, I was going to say, against the backdrop of what I've heard is happening this holiday season with spending on gifts, which is in the billions. It's almost the biggest season in years. I think that maybe people might just want to look at it as just a very small proportion of your Christmas gift budget. Would probably be a lot if it tracks what we're hearing.
And we do have a nice feature that, I know, I tell this story often because the first couple years we were doing Santa Cruz Gives, once it launched, I was telling my kids all the time, it's like, why are you on your phone all the time, Mom? You're not even listening. It's like, look how much we raised this week. Look how much we raised today. And so one of my kids for Christmas just printed out, it's like, we made a gift to Santa Cruz Gives for you, Mom. And we picked 3 groups that we thought. So Jeannie ran with that and had like a little gift certificate that you can print out. And, there are a lot of folks who really don't need anything material. And it is really nice, actually, to be able to say, hey, if someone loves the arts, make a gift to K-Squid. If someone has, loves being out in nature, pick one of the environmental organizations and give a gift in their honor and print out the little gift certificate. And it's a really nice way. It's a really nice way to give something meaningful and experiential instead of.
So you have a gift certificate people can print out. That's cool. I did not know.
Yeah, there's a link on the homepage. I also have so many friends who are letting their children, giving them a certain amount of money, $100 or whatever they can, and saying, read through and choose who you want to give the money to.
Oh, that's so fun.
It's
You're
really-
turning them into little philanthropists.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's way better than here, play the stock market, kid. I like it way better. We're going to take a teeny tiny break, and we'll be right back with Karen Delaney and Jeannie Howard of Santa Cruz Gives to learn more about how you can participate. Stay tuned. This is K-Squid. I'm Rachel Ann Goodman. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Gee, what a week!
What a week indeed. Just one of the many programs we have here at K-Squid. And this is Talk of the Bay, where we take on local people and local issues and amplify them to the world. And we'd like to welcome our streaming listeners tonight from near and far. You know, anyone from anywhere, especially I'd like to appeal to our Monterey County audience, can give through Santa Cruz Gives. You don't have to be a local to be a donor. So all you have to do is go to santacruzgives.org/KSQD if you want to give to our campaign from anywhere on Earth. That's what the internet has allowed. We have, I don't know about the moon or Mars or the space station. We haven't tried that yet. But it's a really cool idea, and it only goes till December 31st, right? It's over at that point.
December 31st, that's right.
So people have to get on board. I want to hear more about Good Times' connection to this. I know that one of the ways you help is to amplify the stories of these nonprofits. What are some of the ones you're highlighting through the next couple of weeks?
Well, we never talk about our stories in advance because you never know when something suddenly becomes timely and we have to drop what we were planning.
Oops, sorry to have asked the wrong question.
Yeah, in fact, this year I looked back to see who we've covered in the past so that we make sure we hit the new ones, because I don't think we've been too organized about that. But every week during the campaign, Good Times writes stories about the various nonprofits, and we try to cover a lot of them. Obviously, in 6 weeks, they can't all be covered, but we try to hit them on categories. Like, for example, we'll just talk about all the ones that are in the environmental category.
But this week is out already, so you can talk about that.
I know, but I'm not current because
sorry.
I've been dealing with so many other journalistic issues this week. We had quite a
I'm sorry to hear that.
we had quite a response to some of the coverage of the rallies that are both pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli. There have been several rallies that we've been covering, and people are very riled up. So it sort of distracted me this week.
And it turned to focus on the press instead of as the messenger instead
exactly.
of
That's right. But we have to realize that people just equate the messenger with
the message.
The message, exactly.
This is a hard one. Yeah. We've also gotten letters about the same issue. So I feel people need to support the press. That's all I got to say is we have to have free press and we have to have freedom of speech.
Yes, explaining freedom of speech to people is always interesting, and explaining censorship. People don't understand what censorship is. That governments censor, not newspapers. Anybody can start one and say whatever they want.
This is our Constitution.
But I do feel that some of the benefits have surprised me because I come from a business background, not a nonprofit background, even though I like to say I think we make less money than most nonprofits.
Right, we are a negative profit.
But I feel like we're literally creating money out of thin air because so many young people are giving that the feedback is that many of them are saying this is the first time I've ever donated.
That's cool.
And then new donors. The lifeblood of a nonprofit is new donors, just like businesses need new customers.
That's right.
And a high number are new for a lot of the nonprofits. And like you said earlier, it's a bit of a competition because there's limited donor dollars. But we're finding that a rising tide lifts all boats. It might be that one of your regular donors goes to the site and then they fall in love with some other nonprofits in the community and give to them too. And even if they gave less to you because they wanted to give to more groups, you'll be receiving when their people come to the site and give to more groups. So overall, everyone the feedback, it was initially like, oh, we're concerned about being placed side by side with all these other nonprofits, but everyone's raising more money.
That's
So,
wonderful, and certainly needed by all these great nonprofits, which seem to range far and wide in terms of what they do. You have, like you said, environmental groups, you have tribal groups, you have people who are feeding people. The Teen Kitchen, I think, is on there again this year. They take meals to people who are struggling with cancer, which is also trains teens how to make these meals. So some very creative ideas have turned into nonprofits. Do you know, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, whether Santa Cruz has an inordinate number of nonprofits? Are we just rich with them because we're creative people and see a need and want to give? Or is this typical of a town this size or a community?
I think that a lot of people think we have more nonprofits, and I don't think we have more nonprofits when I look at the numbers. But what I do think is this is a really generous and active community. So people are aware of the nonprofits and notice them and give to them and volunteer for them and talk about them a little more. And I think that's part of what makes, Dr. King used to talk all the time about creating a beloved community, a community that, it's our obligation to create the community we want to live in, not to just say what we don't want, but to create the community we want to live in. And so there's lots of nonprofits everywhere. But in Santa Cruz, I think nonprofits do have more partners. And I know that, for example, for I think the 12th year in a row, the volunteering rate in Santa Cruz County is a little bit higher than the rest of the state. And, I don't know about the giving rate because that data is hard to come by. But I do think that we have a lot of nonprofits and we're proud of our nonprofits. I think it's part of our quirky, it's part of being Santa Cruz and liking to do things. We have a lot of really creative small nonprofits that really, other places, small nonprofits are like tiny family restaurants. They open up and they're closed in 6 months. And I think we do a little bit better at taking care of folks and appreciating folks who are doing interesting things. We've got one of my favorite groups, I love all the groups, but like the disability outdoors folks, the
Shared Adventures
and Black
program.
Surfer Association. It's amazing.
Yeah, Black Surf, Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Well, people can learn so much more about all of these nonprofits that are hanging out their shingle at santacruzgives.org. And I want to thank Karen Delaney of the Volunteer Center from just up the street and Jeannie Howard from Good Times. I want to thank both of you from coming in tonight and sharing all the great things you're doing with santacruzgives.org.
Well, thank you for all the work you're doing here with K-Squid, Rachel. It's so appreciated.
Well, we're all in it together, aren't we? Just trying to keep it all going. And thanks to our listeners for coming forward as well, keeping this experiment alive. Coming up next, it's the kooky side of crazy, our biweekly look at mental health issues for everyone. Join host Ryan Althouse as he and guests discuss seasonal affective disorder. As the daylight grows short, which it just did, just outside, the holidays dominate our culture. Many of us can feel the uptick of depression, anxiety, and discomfort. How to cope with these when you're not so cheery? Find out more right up ahead at 6 o'clock, live here on KSQD. Santa Cruz and KSQT Prunedale. I'm Rachel Ann Goodman. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We really appreciate it.